Welcome one and all to the Mudai Manga Book Club podcast. Today is March 26th, 2025, episode 9. We're off to make friend in space. My name is Louis, and I will be your guide to the vastness of space. I'm joined with my co-host.
In space, no one can hear you scream, so make sure to always talk with an appropriate indoor voice.
Tom!
Hi everyone, it's nice to see you again. Welcome to the show. Glad to see you.
So this week, we'll be doing our regularly scheduled program where first we'll talk about things we've been up to, things we've been reading, things we've been listening to, and then we have two other main topics. First, we're going to do a genre spotlight, slice of life. Just discuss the topic, what we like about it, what we don't like, things just in general. What is slice of life to us? And then we're also going to review Eden Zero, chapter 1 to 11. This covers the intro of the story as well as the first big arc, the Norma arc.
Mm-hmm.
So, Tom, what have you been up to?
In space. I don't know. I feel like I should say something funny there, but I don't have anything funny. So I decided to read slightly fewer than I did the last time. So
That was not hard.
I mean, it was 2 weeks, so all I had to do is
True.
keep it under 35 books, and I did it. It is over 10 though.
It is over 10, yeah.
So first off, I finished off Rounder Meguru Volume 10,
Nice.
which was the last one that I own at the moment, and hadn't finished last week. It's good. It's in the middle of another tournament. It's very clear. It's one of those stories where it's a tournament arc and you know exactly the main character and who they're going to be facing at the end. Mm-hmm. And they're both struggling desperately to get to the finals. And it's going to be very dramatic and sad because you're almost guaranteed that the person who's not the hero isn't going to win, but you're going to want him to win because he's really cool. And that continues to be this whole arc.
And then they mix it up and throw it all out the window.
No, I believe I don't remember exactly where it's ended. Either the other person is on their last fight before the finals, or they've just started that final. I can't remember, which is not an issue on how good it was. It was a lot of fun. Because they're all wearing like head protectors and gloves, it's very hard to tell everyone apart.
Fair enough, yep.
But it's been fun. It continues to be good. There was a really great fight between Meguru and a former Olympic athlete in that tournament, and it's just like, oh, okay. It continues to be a very good fight series of, here's this kid who's not the strongest, not the fastest, not the best trained, but has that fighting spirit and is good at figuring out how to push people in a way that will let him win. So it continues just to be a lot of fun. Nice. After that, I read Aposimz. I'm not sure how to say the title.
I did not recognize this when I saw your list.
Yeah, it is not one I would have recognized from the title either, but seeing the cover, I'm like, I know exactly who this is by. And you will too. It's Tsutomu Nihei, who you might not know, but he's the guy who made Blame.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And he made another one that's very similar. Noise, that's the other one.
I've heard of Noise too.
And Knights of Sidonia. I know him from Blame, which is a fantastic series.
Yes.
With almost no dialogue.
Yes.
I've read a little bit of Knights of Sidonia. That's probably more of what people would think of like a traditional space manga from him, because Blame is very unique. Like the first chapter, I don't think there's any speech at all. And it's just crazy, weird techno world. Aposimz is a little bit more standard. There's characters, there's a plot. Things are explained up front, unlike Blame, where things are never explained.
Yeah.
But it has the same visual style of Blame with these weird tech and like decaying superstructures and all of that.
That's cool.
Because it's set on the outside of this not quite planet or moon, but meteor that's still big enough to like hold multiple cities on it. There's like lots of snow and like frost and things like that, but it's really pretty. It makes slightly more sense. It's still one of his series, so it doesn't make that much sense. But there's a lot more like robots and characters and people.
Okay, yeah, because I know in Blame for a while it was just the one guy.
It's just the one guy and the gun.
Yeah. And that's it for a while.
And he's
as you're trying to like, what is happening?
Yeah, and like the first 3 chapters, he's off doing something, and you're like, I don't know what's happening. Like, it's compelling, but I don't know what's going on or why. Aposimz, it's not entirely explained until like chapter 3, like what the main characters are trying to do. But that's more of even just the actual main character doesn't know quite yet. But there's a lot more of, here's these characters, this is what they're doing, this then happens, here's how they're reacting to it, they come across this is how they're going to deal with that. It's much easier to follow and get into narratively. So it was a fun first book. I'll probably get more, but it still doesn't make a lot of sense. It's very much
his style.
Tsutomu Nihei style. Yeah, it's exactly the moment you look at it, it's like, oh yeah, I know exactly who this is, his stuff. Yeah. That's it. It's good. If you liked Blame, this is definitely more like that. After that, we have Full Clearing, Another World Under a Goddess with Zero Believers, Volume 2. This is a kind of random isekai light novel that I picked up.
So is this the opposite of the Zero Subjects, kind of?
No. So the 2 things that I think of where it's like, how would I describe it? It would be like Konosuba.
Oh, okay.
Or Arifureta.
Yep.
Or those other ones where it's like everyone from a class dies, goes to another world. Konosuba is very, very comedic, very funny, very silly. I don't even think the main character dies as part of a class, but like there's lots of other people who go to that other world.
Yeah.
Arifureta, the whole class all goes together.
Yep.
And this is more like that. The whole class all die in a bus accident.
Oh, okay.
And they all go together, but it's a little bit less terrifying from the beginning.
Yeah, because that one
Arifureta
gets dark fast.
This one is not as dark. There are some scary moments, but it's more of they go to this other world. They all have their skills. The main characters kind of have useless skills, but there is a whole system in place in this other world to accept people from other worlds, to train them and give them an opportunity and push them out into the world and be successful because they are very powerful.
Okay.
This is the second one. So this is you meet someone from the class who didn't show up with the rest of the class, and he ends up going off to like learn about dungeons and do other things like that. So it's kind of a continuation, and you get another new character. It's fun. It's Arifureta, but not super dark. But it still has some random dark stuff, and the main character, as you can tell from the title of the story, ends up following the goddess of darkness, I believe it is.
Okay.
Who no one is allowed to believe in. It's literally punishable by death.
Gotcha. Okay.
But because no one believes in her, she has no power. But he decides to follow her because she offers to help him, and no one else would really help him because he didn't have any useful skills. And his skills are actually useful. It's just another one of those figuring out how to do it. It's not immediately obvious how to make them work.
Yep.
It's a fun little story. It's not anything truly unique yet, but it's entertaining. It's enjoyable. Not too heavy, not too light. Kind of balances all around.
Cool.
Then I read Dai Dark, which you lent to me.
Yep.
Which is very weird.
Yeah, it's the same author as Doro Hedoro.
Yes.
Yeah.
I looked at the cover and I read through it, and I got like 2/3 the way through the first chapter. Okay, I think I kind of get what's going on. And then the next chapter apparently goes back to him when he's like 12.
Yes.
And I was really confused.
Yes.
It has like the dark, bloody, grotesque world like a berserk would have.
Yeah, it's like a grim, dark future kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the main character is like a high school teenager, bubbly dude who just like is happy and is always looking for things to eat and calls himself, what does he call himself? Meatball spaghetti.
Meatball spaghetti is his name, yes.
Yes, because that was his favorite food.
Yeah.
It's weirdly funny for how incredibly dark it is. Almost not because, it's very dark, but also very funny. No, it's just the art is very dark and the story is very goofy.
Yes.
But it's interesting.
Yeah. It gets more, I wouldn't say complex is the right word. It gets more interesting.
Yeah.
As it goes on, because there's more characters.
Mm-hmm.
You meet more of the main forecast as time goes on. They are quite funny.
I think they introduced them at the end of book 1, just like, here's the 4 that the other people are trying to destroy.
Yeah,
and it's like,
4 most wanted.
I feel like this is kind of making sense. Like, I can see where it's going.
Yep.
But it's still kind of hard to wrap my mind around a story where it's this bloody and grotesque and horror art while not being a horror or anything like that, being like a kind of comedy action. It's very strange.
Yeah.
But it's good.
It's a unique style.
It's very unique. After that, I also read Daemons of the Shadow Realm by Hiroma Arakawa, who you probably know from Fullmetal Alchemist, Silver Spoon, Heroic Legend of Arslan, a bunch of other things. I think this is her newest series that she's working on right now.
It is, yes.
This is... I don't know if it's going to be as good as Fullmetal Alchemist, but this first book reminds me of, like, first book of Fullmetal Alchemist of, like, okay, I don't think I understand all of this, but it's fun, and I like it, and I want to keep reading it.
Yeah, I definitely suggest keep reading it, because I like it as it goes on.
Yeah, the very beginning in the first, like, couple chapters, where you think it's going in the first couple of pages of, like, oh, it's this, like, old Japanese village, and it's like, yep, it's, like, the 1600s. It's like, no, it's not. No, just wait. And it sets up a really interesting idea and some interesting characters. So I'm excited to see where it goes. It's actually a lot of fun.
It's more of there's spirits and things, which is a little different from the previous works. And I like this one a little better than how Silver Spoon started, because I felt when I was reading Silver Spoon, like the first one, it's like, these are just Fullmetal Alchemist characters dressed differently.
I feel like Silver Spoon... They were more unique. I look at Daemons of the Shadow Realm, the cover, like, that's just Alphonse. That's just like a slightly older Alphonse with a scarf and a blue shirt.
Okay, I don't have the first book with me, yeah.
Heroic Legend of Arslan, it's literally just, it's Edward Elric on the cover.
Okay, I haven't read that one.
Yeah, I haven't read that one either. But, like, the cover, you look at it, it's like, that's just Edward Elric. This is not Fullmetal Alchemist. Why does he look exactly the same?
Okay.
This one, he kind of reminds me of a slightly grown-up Alphonse from what I remember Alphonse looking like. It's very Fullmetal Alchemist-like, whereas Silver Spoon, it's the same style, but the characters are clearly not straight copies.
But they were close, so it's like...
Some of them are close, yeah.
Some of them, it's like, this... I have a picture in my mind of who this character is, and it's not who they are in this story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that. I think this one... feels closer to Fullmetal Alchemist with like some of the character designs, the outfits and things.
Yeah, but the story is very different.
I wouldn't say, at least so far, I wouldn't say the story is very different. It's a different setting and a different magic system, but weird magic powers and crazy things and getting involved in stuff. If I read Fullmetal Alchemist and then I jumped to this, it'd be like, okay, I kind of see how this is the same sort of style, but it's a different story, whereas Silver Spoon is very different.
Well, that's true. Silver Spoon is a completely different genre.
Different type of story and everything, yeah.
I like it, but...
No, I think it's great. I'm super excited to read more for it because it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And finally, if you're wondering, wait, how did you get to 2 digits with just those? They're all one life. Yeah, so one of my favorite book series did just release their new book yesterday. And I've been reading to catch up to it, which I did, but I'm not talking about because of reasons and time of recording versus time of production. I mean, what? No, nothing like that. So I've been rereading How a Realist Hero Rebuilt the Kingdom, the light novels. It's one of the first light novels I ever read. It's still one of my favorites. Person from Japan, summoned to another world. Unlike most of them, he's in college. Ends up becoming the king of the country for reasons that don't make sense at first, but are explained. Like, he doesn't understand why he becomes the king, but the king's like, you're going to be king now. And instead of, like, having superpowers or being able to win battles, he just does political reforms and socioeconomic reforms. It's not a super tight or realistic political drama. There's a lot of it where he's just like, I'm going to do this thing like we do in Japan, and it's going to work. But it's a lot of interesting ways of what he does with the things that are in this world, because there is a lot of powerful things in this world. There's magic, there's dragons, there's wyverns. There's a whole military system of like an air force and a navy and an army based on the way this world's rules work. So he's redoing that to make it even better.
Okay.
Based on how military works in our world. and there's a lot of really interesting characters. Its newest book, 19, has just released by the time this episode has come out. Yay. And it is almost over. The end of book 18, I believe they said it was going to go to book 20.
Okay.
So there'll be this book and then one more after it. I think we've been waiting like a year and a half, if not longer, for this book. But it's a lot of fun. I read the first 7 again. The first 4, kind of, you can just read that and get like to a temporary ending because of the way it was written. But it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of stuff. We're going to talk about it again. It's just been fun to go back and reread it.
Nice.
How about you? What have you been up to?
Okay, it's been a light week for me. Just a couple. The first one is My Quiet Blacksmith Life in Another World. I read volume 4 of the manga. It's good. So this continues the story of, now there's a third companion. We have the original cat girl, the dwarf assistant, and now we have the princess. All kind of living together now, and kind of what goes on with that. But one of the things that happens in this book that is kind of what's going to happen eventually is that because he's making weapons with his crazy skills, he gets a request to use some better material to make a really good one. It's like, okay, we need you to make this sword with some high quality stuff. So he makes it, and then he realizes because he's so good at what he does, this sword is so amazing. This could kill anyone. And it's kind of like an existential crisis of, I've made something that could destroy kingdoms in the wrong hands. And it's kind of like him going through that, and the people around him, it's like, don't worry, it's not on you if someone uses this for something bad. And it kind of goes into the struggle of, I'm making weapons, I'm trying to only give them to people who will use them for protection and monsters and things like that. But what if someone uses them for something bad, and like the stuff I make is really good? Yeah, that was interesting. And then Frieren volume 12 came out, so I read that finally. That one's takes the story in a kind of almost different direction. It's more of a, we're going to go back and talk about the past now. Sort of. There's some time travel shenanigans going on where you go back and see, somehow things get sent into the past, and you see Frieren interacting with her original team. Okay. So it's kind of like, okay, what's going on? And it's trying to explain more of the world as well, because you're actually seeing them progress through their original journey, but then also understanding, okay, there's regular magic, there's elves, but then there's also the faith with the goddess and the magic that comes with the priests and things like that, which hasn't really been explained how that came about. So this is trying to get that started, and you kind of also seeing what the world was like back in the original before the Demon King was killed. Okay. It's interesting. The next book will probably shed more light on what's going on, because it's still like we're trying to figure out what happened. So it goes back. So the original group of people that she was with are kind of pushed to the side for now, and now she's back with her original team. So interesting. Okay. And then I read Coppersmiths Bride Volume 5. Yeah. It was good. I liked it. It continues the story. We see, as you talked about last week, he's trying to understand how he can improve his craft, and now he gets a big project where he has to work with someone else. Yep. And it's fun interactions. The one thing I did like about this one is it also talked about the history of the region. Oh, yep. Which was interesting because it kind of explains, okay, why is coppersmithing here? And then they also talk about, they also do ironsmithing almost across the river. Why did it go that way? And kind of like the history of the whole area of Japan, which is fun. And they did show that there's a museum that the main girl goes to is real. And it talks about, you can go there and they'll teach you all about the crafts, and you can learn about the history and things like that. So if you ever get a chance, maybe check it out. But it's good. I like that it continues the story. It's more of a story of him than her this time, because she's there. Yeah. But she's not as big of a part, per se, because a new character gets introduced. Yeah. Sheena is a lot less involved in the actual plot, although she's always there, and sort of the non-smithing part, she's a bigger part of that, like the kite battles and other things like that. She's involved in. But, but it sort of goes back and forth of oh, she's here or she's not.
It's not so much about their interaction as much.
Yeah, it's more of like a smithing focused book this time instead of a family character couple book, which is good because it kind of goes back and forth between the two. One of the last things I did, so there's a new Pixar show called Win or Lose. Okay. It is about a softball team playing for the playoffs. I think it came out like a couple weeks ago. Definitely a couple weeks ago by the time this comes out. Mm-hmm. I think they were in middle school. So it's about them winning their last game and then playing the game for the championship. And it's interesting because every episode, I think there's 10 episodes, follows a different character on the team or a different family member of the team. So, for example, one of the episodes is about one of the main girls. Then another one's about one of the main girl's brother, one of the character's mom, then the coach, and one of the teachers. But they're all connected to this softball team. But then every episode is done where you follow one character, but then you also understand their psyche. So, for example, the teacher that they follow is also the umpire. So he's like, I have to be unmovable because I'm an umpire. Whatever I say goes. So it shows him picturing himself dressed in a suit of armor. People say things, so it just bounces off his armor. I don't care. This is my ruling. This is how it goes. And it shows how he lives his life like that. Mm-hmm. But then also shows he can't live his life like that because of things that happen and what he wants out of life. So it shows almost every character having a breakdown. And every character is also their psyche, that is their manifestation in the world, changes how the show is animated. So, for example, the little brother, he has like a cardboard tube that he looks through is like to see different worlds. So whenever he looks through it, it all becomes almost hand-drawn animation.
Oh, cool.
But like the really scratchy kind. Spider-Verse, if you've seen that. So it's like a regular Pixar, but then whenever he looks through the spyglass, the whole world changes. He's like, it's all his imagination. So he's like, and then a meteor comes flying down, and you see this drawn meteor come crashing down. It's like, and then everyone's panicking. It's like, but it's showing him like pan over the crowd, and the pictures of people are changing as he pans by them. It's like, the women and children are running away. So it's really cool because it kind of shifts how people are perceiving the world. But every episode except the last ends just about when the softball championship game gets started.
Okay.
And then they play like 4 innings, and that's where every episode ends. So I was like, I want to know what happens in the final game. So only until you get to the last episode do you see how the championship goes. And it's like, okay, this was kind of cool. The whole season takes place over like a week. Because the beginning of the episode is always like a week before the championship. That's how it goes. Huh. And every character has their own unique story and their own trials of what's going on in their life. It's interesting. But yeah, it's a cool show.
Cool.
Yeah.
No, it definitely sounds interesting. I've seen some images of it. I'm like, okay, this looks actually kind of interesting design-wise, and just as a story, it sounds like a lot of fun.
Nah, it's really good. I highly recommend checking it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for today, we're going to start up a new little segment that we might do a bit more often. We're calling it a genre spotlight, where we're going to take a look at a popular or at least common narrative genre that we see a lot in manga and light novels and other books, and take a moment to sort of unpack it, take a look at it, try to understand it a little bit more, and then talk about some neat examples that we can find for it. So for today, we're going to talk about the slice of life genre. Yes, let me bring out my butlery voice. That's not even what a butlery voice would be. I don't know what I would call this, but that's what I am going to be speaking as for a moment.
Okay, go ahead. The whole episode.
I think I have to leave now. Okay, goodbye. I'm going to space. Space. So slice of life is kind of a weird genre when you think about it. Slice of life is a story about your normal life, which at first seems like, well, aren't all stories like that? Fantasy, battle, no, pretty much every story is not about daily life. And when you look at them, what I've always tended to see with slice of life stories, the things that stand out about them is you get these very ordinary events, you get this ordinary day-to-day time, And what that leads to is a very conscious lack of dramatic tension and narrative tension. It's just, yeah, this is just how things are. You don't really feel anything happening. You don't really see it as there's this big plot moving forward. It's just, yep, this is what's happening. And then this happens. And then that happens. You get a big sense of, like I said, day-to-day life, ordinary things, passing of time. And that's sort of what a slice of life type story is.
It's just one of those, you're just watching a story unfold that is just them living. It's not about survival.
Yep.
It's just about, okay, this is just how they go about their life.
Not about survival, not about almost true slice of life. It's almost like it's not about anything. It's just, this is what my day is like. It's almost like a character in a story is just blogging about what they did today. It's like, yep, today I went to gym and I played dodgeball. Oh, and you got hit in the face by that mean kid? No. Oh, and you were trying to show off for that girl you like? No. Oh, you were trying to... No, I played dodgeball.
Your life is boring.
Kind of fun. Yeah. That's what makes it so weird. It's like, when you talk about slice of life, it's like, wow, this is really boring.
Yeah.
Why does this work as a storytelling genre? I think me, literary brain clicks on and it's like, okay, it's a couple of things of, it's like looking at landscapes and things like that is what I think of as another way to talk about it. It's not meant to show you anything. It's just meant to be pretty and nice, an enjoyable time together, an enjoyable scene. Oh, okay, yeah, this is something interesting. It gives you also a really intimate view of the characters and their lives. It's really easy to read. It doesn't make you feel anxious or anything like that, because then it's not really slice of life. It's not really that plain ordinariness. It's just, how does that become entertaining is kind of hard to explain.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. It's one of those slice of life stories are something I want to just relax and watch. You're not in it for the drama or the action. It's like, I just want a nice relaxing story to read. It's not something horrible happens every other page, and it's not, I'm not saying those stories aren't good, because sometimes you want a high exciting story, but sometimes you also just want something to sit down. I don't really want to not think too hard, but I don't really want to commit myself to trying to understand it. I just want a nice relaxing thing to enjoy.
Yeah, it's almost, if I'm trying to explain, how would you summarize this genre? I think of it like this, of you're sitting down with your friend or your family at the dinner table and you're asking them about their day and they're telling you about it. And I just imagine if them telling you about it was a book that you were reading. And yeah, every once in a while there'll be something where it's like, oh, that's weird or silly or funny, but that's not the stories that you're usually getting. You're just getting the stories of, yeah, I went to school today, I went to work today, this is what happened. When someone can tell it well, it'll be entertaining and enjoyable, but there's nothing jumping out of the story itself. It's always going to be something that feels very grounded and normal for people, even if it's not set in a situation that is grounded or normal. It doesn't have to be, but the actual events and the way that it proceeds feels very normal.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to say it's like a reality show without all the drama, but
no.
It's something where you're watching the world unfold, but it's not a world that is going to end soon or things like that. It's just their life is just going on. This is just a character you felt like watching.
The world unfolding, that's the way to talk about it. You're just sort of learning about it, how it's going, but there is no panic, there is no worry, there is no fear, there is no excitement, there is no danger, there is no other emotion driving you to push onward. It just goes.
Yeah, and I think the one problem though is that a story like that can become boring.
Yeah.
Without something going on. It's like, oh, this person went to the store, they went home, they went to work, they went home, they went to the store again, they went home. Okay, so that's not a great story.
Yeah.
So there needs to be more that happens, but it doesn't have to be huge things that go on constantly. This kind of genre has a lot more downtime compared to a lot of other ones.
Yeah. It's a story where nothing exciting happens and nothing is interesting or unusual. It's great.
Yeah.
It's like story writing 101 will tell you that's probably going to be the worst thing that you
Conflict.
ever created.
Conflict.
It's like you need conflict, you need character, you need drama, you need tension, you need all these things. And it's like, yeah, we're just going to take all of that out and put in nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but sometimes it does work. But it's the kind of thing where it's really easy to read, it's really relaxing, but it's not obvious how it works or how you can make it until you sat down and actually tried it. Because it's not easy to make without it becoming boring.
Right.
But nothing is ever a single genre by itself. So there are especially with slice of life, because it's so ordinary and unimportant, there usually is something to give a narrative thread. You'll see this one more than others paired with things. It always works well with comedy.
Yes.
Slice of life comedies are great because it gives you something to have happen that's entertaining. But if it's low stakes, if nothing's really serious, you can just have fun watching someone do silly things in their day-to-day life. And that can be entertaining. Romance is another really common one, especially one where it's less about getting together or resolving interpersonal relationships, but more of just being together, enjoying things together, and having enjoyable romantic moments together rather than, oh, will they get together?
Yeah.
The other two that I could think of, one of them is pretty common, is like school stories and work stories. Doing a story about everyday life, everyday things. What's the most everyday thing? School or work. The thing that pretty much everyone has to do.
Yeah.
If it's just not dramatic, it's just seeing them do the things that they do. If you can still make it interesting or something entertaining, or the character is enjoyable to watch do their day-to-day life, that works really easily. What you can sometimes do, though, with that, which I struggle to think of a lot of examples for, but you can also do that with fantasy and other worlds and other things. We're just going to have the normal day-to-day life, but if it's the normal day-to-day life of someone living on the planet QGXR7... okay, yeah, it's my daily life living with the brain tentacle aliens and the giant cat people who are the size of buildings. Like, that's just weird and silly in its own sense, and that it gives you a hook of just like, here's my day-to-day life working with the giant bear cars. What? Still giving you something that can be interesting and entertaining to read or watch or understand, or taking a situation that we normally see a lot of more dramatic stories in and resetting it there. The classic isekai, the classic fantasy, the classic sci-fi. Instead of being big and epic, it's small and simple, but you're still getting to watch this new and interesting place at the same time.
Yeah, I see the fantasy isekai slice of life probably being the easiest one to make interesting, because while I'm just living my life, you have the whole interaction of I'm in a new place, in a new world, don't know what's going on, so I'm just living my life, and the act of living in a completely foreign land is what makes it interesting. So you have less of a need to up the drama because of that. So I think that one is one you will probably see the most right now for slice of life, just because isekai is very popular, fantasy is very popular, going to different worlds is very popular, and then that's easy to say, we're just going to make a relaxing story about this person from our world living in random fantasy world that does this, and they can kind of up the stakes a little by saying, and because of that, you're now a little better at doing something like the blacksmith one. You're a little better at blacksmithing, which is something you always wanted to do in a fantasy world, but we're just going to watch you blacksmith. Okay.
Yeah.
I am a blacksmith in another world living my life, and that's it.
Yeah, I can see that. I don't know if it would always be the most common, because slice of life, it just feels so weird to come up with a story about that when you like, I have this fantasy world with all of these things, and what's happening in it? Nothing. No, like, where's the adventure? Where's the drama? It's like slice of life is like always pulling back against like that and being like, there is no adventure. There is no drama. This is just ordinary things. And again, in the real world, in every story, there's never no drama. There's never no things going on. But slice of life is always pulling back against that and being like, no. This is going to be just simple stuff. No, this is going to be ordinary. This is going to be the thing that's just like everything else, just set in this other place. And I feel like if you're going through the work of making this entirely new world that you're sending these characters to, it's like, and then we're going to get there. And yeah, we're just going to be. It's really easy to be like, well, no, like stuff should happen. Things should happen.
Yeah, and I don't know if Slice of Life will be nothing happens. But it really depends on what the stakes are. Because for the most part, I think a lot of Slice of Life, you have to have some drama at some point. Of some kind. So
I agree.
But the stakes are very personal, not for the main character. It's not as we're trying to decide the fate of the world or something. This is a conflict related to just me or maybe my friends, and that's it.
Or if not that, if there are big stakes or big drama, they're stretched out over such a long span of time.
Yep.
Not time in the story, but time of the person reading it, that it feels like, okay, yes, they're working towards that, but everything is spread out so much that you don't feel that tension and that drama very much, because it's just like you've sat with it for so long. You're like, oh, yeah. Right, we got to do that thing. We're going to get there.
Yeah.
But first, let's go make lunch.
Yeah.
So, why do you enjoy Slice of Life? Why do we enjoy it? What makes this a good genre that people actually like?
I think it breaks up a lot of the... Because there's also tons of stories about there's some crazy demon or some conflict, some war, some adventure that we have to return the ring to Mordor or something like that, where it's like high stakes, high adventure, something crazy's going on, and those are great. But if that's all you read, it's kind of like, okay, sometimes I don't feel like it.
Yeah.
I'd rather read something, but I don't feel like reading something like this. So then Slice of Life is like, okay, it's a cool story, but it's a little more relaxing. It's kind of like, okay, you just kind of want to see what's going on, kind of like, okay, this is a cool life. It's just kind of more chill.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much all I can think of it as well. It's like, why do we like it? Sometimes you just don't want that tension, that drama. You just want to enjoy something. And if it's like, oh, I like these characters, oh, I like this place, I just want to sit and like relax here and just float with everything that's going on.
Yeah, it's kind of like floating in a pool, but it's a book.
Yeah.
Soaking up the sun. It's like, okay, this is just nice.
Another thing that I can see in it that oftentimes grabs me when I've gotten enthralled in a Slice of Life story and I'm like trying to understand, why am I reading all of this? There's a lot of artistry in just making normal, unimportant stuff a compelling thing to read or watch or see or listen to. This is not something that's easy to do, and a really talented writer, a really talented artist can make this what the story is about in a way that other people can't. And there's some real artistry in that. Yep. And so the lecture portion of the story is now over. So we're going to switch over to the example section. So the obvious thing is like, what are some examples? And I think we'll just flip back and forth on this. But it's kind of hard to just pick one. I think right now, if I had to grab one and be like, what is a good slice of life? It is the manga Laid Back Camp. I don't know if you've read this one.
I have not.
Okay. It's a bunch of high school girls who go camping.
You okay?
As far as I know, that's the entire story. They eventually all end up part of the high school's camping club.
Which would make sense.
Which is still just all of them. For the first couple books, half of the students aren't even in that. Yeah, this girl's going off to go camping on this mountain that's near them. And so she'll get on her motorbike, she'll ride up there, she'll set up a tent, she'll cook some food, she'll stare at the stars, she'll go to bed, wake up the next morning, pack up her tent, drive back. That's like 3 chapters. That's all it is. And things happen like, oh, she stops at a store along the way, or, oh, she's driving this way, and, oh, that road's closed, so she has to find a different way. But the story is so full of these moments of just landscapes and like drawings of like her sitting having hot chocolate or tea, or sitting out in front of her tent, or driving along the roads, or going to these different places, or deciding how much firewood to buy, or playing with their new stove. Okay, cute characters doing these things and going off in this beautiful backgrounds. And that's it. That's the whole story. Yeah, there's also some school stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of camping stuff in it. other times in it, they'll be when they're not all together, they'll just be texting each other about stuff that's going on. But that's basically it. They go out, they go camping, they eat some food, and then they go home. It's amazing how enjoyable it is. Yeah, they're going camping. Yay, they finished going camping. What's the next chapter about? They're going camping again.
Yeah.
But that's really all that it is. And it's hard to explain, like, why is it so good? But it's just so good. It's pretty. The characters will crack jokes or be silly every once in a while, but you're not there for that. You're just there to watch them go camping.
Yeah, I could see someone hearing that and be like, that sounds incredibly dull. Mm-hmm. Okay, why would I want to read a book about people camping? But if it's done well, it could be interesting, informative, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like, from that description, that's probably as much slice of life as slice of life could get. I can't think of one that's more like that.
I can think of one anime, and I can't remember it. It's a 26 episode anime, and there's a plot that starts in episode 24. The rest of the time, it's just this kid who lives out in like this rural area in Japan. And then there's a plot, there's like an actual like plot based on the characters that starts in like episode 23, 24 out of 26.
And then it ends.
And then it ends. Laid Back Camp is probably the one that I could actually explain and remember. It's 16 volumes of a comic. It's still going. It's obviously wildly popular. And when you read it, you can get why you feel like you're there with them. You feel like you're on this trip with them. And the characters are these, each individual is a little bit different and they bounce off each other really well. But explaining it to someone, you should read this story about people going camping. Why? It's like, just trust me. It's good.
Yeah.
But I think that's the largest slice of life that I can think of.
Yeah, I can't think of another one that... I know there was a manga about fishing. I never had a chance to read it. Mm-hmm. But this sounds... The one you're describing, the Laid Back Camp, is, I think, the most slice of lifey you could get just from your description. It's like, I can't think of one that doesn't have something else going on to mix it up.
I think that's another thing about slice of life is it's almost never the main genre. It's usually something else played off in a calm, relaxed way. Yeah. Whereas this is like, nothing happens.
Yeah, because anything I can think of, there's some other genre at play.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there is still in this one, there's still some stuff at school. There's still stuff about camping. There's still like a good amount of comedy because it's the characters being silly and their personalities bouncing off of each other.
But I think even just slice of life, you're going to have things like that happen just in general. Mm-hmm. Without having romance, a lot of comedy, or some crazy adventure or things like that. I think that's about as slice of life as you could get.
Yeah. So to give an example then that's a little bit more of like, this is what you'll probably see. Let's bring up the one that we've talked about on the show and we both like a lot with the Coppersmiths Bride. Yep. It is a very slice of life, their day-to-day life of Shu working, crafting copper, and Sheena and Shu on their daily romantic adventures, but it's still much more of a romance of watching these two learn how to have a relationship together, and it's also more about the craft and the life of being a coppersmith and Shu working on his craft and trying to get better, and Sheena trying to figure out how to support him. Yep. Most every chapter there's not a lot of tension. It's less, how will they solve this issue? And more of, we know they're going to solve the issue. We're just sort of enjoying watching how they're going to get there.
Yes. This is definitely more on the romance. Romance-ish. There's not a ton of...
Romance-ish.
Like romance-ish. But then the slice of life is just them going through their lives as he becomes a better coppersmith. You're really watching him grow as a coppersmith and the romance that goes along with it. But it's a slice of life because you're just following their lives. Mm-hmm. And then there's some drama mixed in because it's a romance, but it's very much a calm story where you just watch their lives and what they're doing. Yeah. Yeah, it's relaxing. It's like, okay, yeah, there's nothing crazy going on. There's some interesting history, like, of why Shu is the way he is and things like that. But the slice of life is them just growing up together.
Yeah, and I think that's all the things where it's like, oh, this is how they were, this is how they are now.
Mm-hmm.
It's always sort of showing, yep, this is what happened where they got there, but it's never, oh, this happened, I wonder how they'll turn out, or this is going on, will they be able to accept this? It's like, no, we already know. We already know where this is going. We already know how this is going to have turned out. So we're seeing sad moments, or we're seeing frustrating moments, but we're already at the point in the story where we know it's going to be okay in the end. So everything is always a little bit undercut of, yeah, but then things are going to be okay.
Yeah.
Almost intentionally preventing it from being emotionally driving. It's just like, oh yeah, I remember this happened on the day that happened, and that was kind of sad. Oh well, let's go get coffee.
But then you have ones like Fruits Basket. It very much starts off as you're just following the main girl's life, and then drama gets thrust on her. But as the drama is happening, based on everything going around her with the Zodiacs, there's still a lot of slice of life chapters, but then there's also a lot of not slice of life chapters of, okay, this is what's going on and how everything that's happening around it is progressing. So I think it's one of those, slice of life can also be in a high stakes drama filled story and used to break up very specific parts. It's like you see a lot of these and even things like One Piece and Naruto, where all of a sudden you have a chapter where it's just kind of there. This is just them hanging out on the boat. It's just a one-off chapter of, hey, we just finished our big adventure, let's take a break. I'm on vacation. Yeah. It's like the beach episode.
Yeah. And I think, though, what Fruits Basket does is there is that drama, but it's always introduced later. It starts off very much of, okay, the very beginning is like, oh, well, this is a thing that's going on. And then it's just like, yep. And then here's them day-to-day life living with that situation. And then, oh, we'll add the next layer onto that. Oh, we'll add the next important plot point onto that. Most of the time, it'll just sort of be like, yep, this is them dealing with things as they come up.
Yeah. And then Neo Genesis Evangelion, the Shinji Ikari Raising Project is such a long title. But in that one, it's very much a slice of life in a situation where it's almost drama is forced on the main character because of the people around him. It's like, we're going to watch your everyday life, but it's going to be a nightmare sometimes. We are going to throw in whatever we can think of to make it either funny, frustrating, dramatic, or just plain weird, and see what happens. But we're going to watch every moment of it.
Yeah, it feels like it was supposed to be a slice of life, and then they packed as much comedy and stuff onto it instead.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just going to be, the plot is a slice of life of, oh, it's just you and your day-to-day life, and here's the situation. And then let's start throwing stuff at the wall and making silly things happen, which can be a really good thing. The one that I think of in that same vein is like different physical style, but feels like it has the same level of tone. Azumanga Daioh, the high school comedy, where it's just like, it's the kids in the classroom. Yes, mine are all about girls apparently in school. But it's just a bunch of high school kids and like the weird stuff that they do and that happens to them. And it doesn't always make sense, but it's just meant to be funny. But the actual plot, what's going on, is just, it's their day-to-day life.
Yep. Oh, I remember this one.
Yeah, it's manga. It's so funny.
Yeah.
It's slice of life. It's totally ordinary. And then I have memories of Osaka's dream where she accidentally kills one of the other characters and like breaks her hair braids off, puts them on her head, and flies away. Because it's just, she's in the dream and she's just weird stuff starts happening. And it's like, what? And then like 4 chapters later, she wakes up and is like, oh, it was a dream. And she reaches over, like tugs on the other girl's hair. It's like, they're not coming off. Okay. It's just like, but ask me like, what's the plot? It's they're going to class.
Yeah.
There's no plot. It's a comedy. It's a school series, but it's still that slice of life. This is just an ordinary thing. Evangelion, the Shinji Ikari Raising Project, is there's a plot. There's just things going on, but it's still mostly it's them at school. It's them in their day-to-day life.
Yeah.
And we're gonna make it silly and dramatic and crazy most of the time, but what's happening is still pretty ordinary.
Yep. And then you can slowly start getting away from that as you add more and more intricate worlds or drama. So you could start off very much like the I forget the name of it is. They're the full name. The one with 0 subjects.
Frontier Lord lived.
The Frontier Lord begins with 0 subjects. That one is slice of life, sort of, because you're watching his day-to-day life as time goes on of him just trying to run his kingdom. But then you get, I am fighting a dragon. I am fighting more dragons. I am talking with kings of foreign lands. I am doing all these crazy things that happen in no one's life. But it's still watching his life. So it gets kind of muddied as the stakes get bigger, depending on the person.
Yeah, I think I see a way to sort of describe it. It sort of works the opposite of the Shinji Racing Project and Azumanga Daioh, where the main plot is something. Mm-hmm. He goes to the grasslands, he does this, he does this, he does this, he does this. There's these very specific plot points, but there's a lot of moments in between where it's, yep, now we're setting up the tent, or now we're taking the bars out to go eat grass. There's a lot of intentionally not important scenes put in that aren't super plot relevant and give you a better sense of the day-to-day life and remind you that, like, yes, he fought this dragon, then he fought that dragon, but time was passing and things were passing and like the characters were talking to each other and interacting and just being normal people in that interim, and the story makes time to stop and walk you through those moments. Mm-hmm. So you don't just feel like, oh, this is a big epic adventure.
Right. Yep. Yeah, because you could argue some stories where you're watching an isekai, someone from another world who's just trying to survive and doing these horrible things, but you're watching every moment of it a slice of life because you're watching their life. But I think that kind of gets away from the point of slice of life, because the slice of life is supposed to be more, at least for my opinion, more of a story about someone's ordinary life, or as ordinary as you can make it. Mm-hmm. But as soon as you start adding things where they have to do something to survive or to solve issues that are way out of left field or something that is not ordinary for them, it becomes either more of an adventure, a drama. Comedy is a little iffy about how that falls in there, but
depends on the tone, I think. But
you can get farther and farther away from a true slice of life, I think, if you start putting more and more on. Because, for example, the Frontier Lord is, if more happens more consistently, it very much falls away from the slice of life category.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good way to think about it, is that you have to have this ordinariness, you have to have this downtime that always shows up, but instead of, it shows up every once in a while to sort of give a break from the tension. And it's like, it's not just a break from the tension. We're going to go on vacation in the middle third of this book and not do anything. That's slice of life. Normal stories, it's like, oh, we're going to take a chapter break.
Yep.
Slice of life is, it's like, we're going to take 703 pages out of this 2,000-page novel series. It's just going to be like, we're just going to relax. We're just going to chill. And that's sort of a story that wants to do that, of really just step back and be plain and simple and calm. Mm-hmm. And it's not even always those emotions. Like, it can be very funny and all that, but it's not trying to push a plot or a drama forward.
Yeah, it sums it up well. If you're looking for a relaxing story to read, Slice of Life is a good place to start. How much Slice of Life is user dependent of how much you could stand people not really doing much.
And I always feel like slice of life is never the main genre.
I don't think so, no.
If you were to ask me, like, I think the only one where I'm like, oh, what's the main genre? Slice of life is like Laid Back Camp. And that one anime that I watched that one time, Coppersmiths Bride, which I think is the next closest I can think of it. It's like, no, it's still a romance and it's still a crafting thing first.
Yeah.
Slice of life is just more of the feeling you get from the story.
Yeah.
Rather than what the story's about.
The structure is more slice of life, but the genre leans more towards romance, crafting, things like that.
Even though it is a genre.
Yes.
It's just because slice of life doesn't really describe anything about the story.
Right.
you're not really going to be able to tell someone like, oh, it's a slice of life. It's like, okay, what does that mean?
Yeah, that doesn't explain much, because no one would want to read a pure slice of life story for the most part. It's like, okay, nothing happens.
Yep.
Yeah.
You wake up, have a cup of coffee, go to a job for 8 hours, come home, watch TV for 2 hours, read a comic book for 1 hour, and go to bed. It's like, oh, so it's
my life.
My Tuesdays.
Yeah. It's like, okay, I could
just buy a GoPro and put it up on your desk facing at you all day. It's like, there we go.
How exciting.
Slice of life.
Yeah.
How exciting.
So pure slice of life, I think, is very rare. But slice of life with something else is, I think, a lot more common now.
Yeah. And even still, I wouldn't say it's that common. I feel like a lot of stories will have moments of it, or will have sections of it. But I feel like still it's more rare than a lot of other things, just because it's
a hard genre to sell to someone. Because I definitely think it's getting more popular than it used to be. Because there's a lot of other books like Legends and Lattes and other like just laid back stories that are kind of capitalizing on the idea of like slice of life can just be a relaxing story about someone's interesting life, but it's just a story to just enjoy. And that, I think, is a lot more popular of an idea than it was 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So you'll get a lot more now compared to back then percentage-wise, but I still think it's a small portion of the overall amount of stories that are out there.
Oh, I agree 100%. I didn't really think of it that way, but actually trying to be like, what can I think of that slice of life that I've seen that's more than 10, 15, 20 years old? And it's like, there's not that much. Like, but nowadays it feels like there's a lot more. I'm wondering too if it's a weird genre to write. It's a weird genre to create and be like, no, this will actually be fun. It's the kind of one where you have to have seen it and realize that you're going to enjoy it before you'll ever actually seek it out. Before that, it just sounds boring. But now we have these series that have done it and been entertaining and enjoyable doing that it's easier to say like, oh, I'm going to do that kind of a story, but this is the situation instead. And it's like, oh, okay, now I get it.
Yeah.
You should check it out.
Yep. So that's genre, slice of life. We'll pick another genre not next time, but another time, and kind of go through that again. So if you have any suggestions or things like that, let us know, and we'll pick another one. On to the big topic. So for this week, our big review is going to be Eden Zero, chapters 1 through 11, books 1 and half of 2. And this covers the introduction to the main characters, or some of the main characters, and the Norma arc. So for anyone who doesn't know, Eden Zero is illustrated by Hiro Mashima. This may be a familiar name because it is also the creator of Fairy Tail, and also the creator of Brave Master and Monster Soul. I haven't read Monster Soul, but Brave Master is a classic one that came out years ago now. But Fairy Tail is also the big one that has, I think, 70-something volumes. Eden Zero is now actually complete. The final volumes aren't out yet, at least in English. I think the last one comes out this fall. This review only covers the first book and a half. So, main characters are Shiki. He is our main protagonist. He is kind of... So if you've read Fairy Tail, he will look an awful lot like the main character of Fairy Tail, except with black hair instead of red. But he is the protagonist. He is I want to be everyone's friend, very likable kind of character. Wants to kind of explore the universe. Let me back up a little. So the setting for this story is space fantasy. And what I mean by that is it's set in space, but there are so many technologies and things like that where it almost makes it feel like it's magic instead of technology. Like they travel around in spaceships and there's huge skyscrapers and things like that, but they have superpowers that are technology, in quotes, things like that. So it's a space fantasy, but very, very much not a dark space fantasy. This is very much a space fantasy that looks on the brighter side of things. So everything is nice and clean, depending on where you go. But it's a high space fantasy, not a grim, dark space fantasy. So as I was saying, there's the main character, main protagonist is Shiki. Mm-hmm. There is Rebecca, who is a bee-tuber with a B. She looks just like the main girl from Fairy Tail, except with her hair a little different. Mm-hmm. She is an up-and-coming bee-tuber, kind of like you would expect for a YouTuber, but a bee-tuber, where she's trying to make it big. She takes videos of herself and her sidekick, Happy, who is a cat who looks an awful lot like Happy from Fairy Tail, except Happy in Eden Zero doesn't have wings. That's one of the main differences. But another main difference is that Happy in Eden Zero is a robot.
And turns into guns.
Which you don't quite know at the beginning. But yes. So Happy and Rebecca go around recording themselves like, hey, we're doing this crazy thing, or here's some fun stuff we're to do, or we're just going to play these games. And they're trying to raise their audience to kind of make it big. And you meet a few other people along the way in the first few chapters and as the story as a whole who are other B-tubers who have made it big and they kind of have a rivalry sometimes. And then there's two other main characters in this first arc. So the three of them, Shiki, Rebecca, and Happy, are the main characters for a while. And then by the end of, halfway through the Norma arc, which is roughly the chapter 3 through 11, they meet a character called Weiss and then another character called Pino. The two of them, Weiss is through some time shenanigans, a professor in Rebecca's time, but a young scientist, engineer in the current time. And then Pino is another robot. So there's one of the big things about this story is that there's a lot of robots in the universe and a lot of people. And it's the interaction between the two of them that is both a conflict and how they resolve conflicts. Because Shiki is very much of the camp where robots are just like people. They have hearts, they can be friends. There's nothing that says the robot over there can't be my friend just as much as the human over there can also be my friend.
Yep.
Or alien or whoever. Everyone can be my friend. That is the kind of character Shiki is. And the reason he's like that is because the story starts off with Rebecca and Happy going to a planet that has this crazy amusement park on it, supposedly. They get there. It's like, okay, we're gonna do this cool VTuber thing. We're gonna record us, and we're gonna do all kinds of crazy stuff. And they meet Shiki. He kind of surprises them. It's like, oh, he is almost a shut-in because he's never left this planet.
Not shut-in, but more of like a feral child.
Yeah, that's true. But I think he's supposed to be in his 16.
Yeah, 15, 16. He's like 15, early teenager.
Yeah.
Well, mid-teenager. Yeah. Standard Shonen Jump protagonist.
Yes. That rough idea.
High school age.
Yeah, we'll just go with that. Somewhere in high school.
Yeah.
But because he's been on this planet, not quite alone per se, but very much by himself without other human contact.
Yes, there's only robots on this planet.
Yes, this planet is just an amusement park run by robots that Happy and Rebecca show up to record some videos. And they're like, Shiki freaks out. It's like, I can make a friend. But he's also comes off as a crazy person. And there's some shenanigans and goofiness that happen because of that.
Yeah.
But because the world is run by robots and Shiki's never left, he's kind of like, I don't know if I want to leave, but I want to go explore the universe. But he also has no idea what the universe even is.
Yep.
So some stuff happens. The robots are like, we're going to revolt and do all these horrible things to everybody because we're robots and you should leave and we hate you all. And so then Shiki, Rebecca, and Happy have to fight their way out, defeat the king of the amusement park, and work their way off into space. And it turns out that it was the only way they could get Shiki to leave.
Yeah, I want to dig into this a bit more because this first chapter is incredibly good. It sets up so much of how the story will play things out and so many of the themes in it. After Shiki and Rebecca have met each other and they've been exploring the old amusement park, the robots decide to rebel, as you said, and like, we're gonna kill all of you and get rid of all of you because we've all been trapped here. There are no ships, there's no way to leave, and there's nothing here that would have somebody come. So Rebecca and Happy showing up with their ship means that they can then take that ship and leave. Shiki, who's been here forever and whose grandfather, who was another robot who has since died and completely shut down, gave him his powers, which you find out in this one is the power to control gravity with his ether gear, which is basically the system that people get their powers from. And so he's been here living with these robots forever and fixing them and helping them and doing all this. And they all are like, nope, we're gonna kill you all and take the ship and escape because people are garbage. And so then Shiki freaks out, but he, Rebecca, and Happy escape, and the ship is flying away. And smash cut immediately back to the planet, and all the robots are crying because, as you said, the whole thing was a trick to get Shiki to be able to leave. His grandfather died, and the thing that they asked him to do was to, at some point, help Shiki get off the planet and go back into space. And they knew he wouldn't leave, so this entire thing for the last 20 pages of this revolt was all them sacrificing themselves to get him to leave, and then they all shut down. And it's like, no, I don't want to cry yet. Why did you do this?
Yeah, because I think, as you brought up, the problem was that they weren't going to last forever. Shiki was going to outlive them, and then he would be on the planet completely alone. No robots whatsoever. And they didn't want that.
That was the other reason why they wanted. They wanted to have him leave because even though they're robots, they were going to die first. They were barely holding together at the point when he finally left. It's also said that Shiki would try to fix them all the time and say they would fix them. And they're like, yes, thank you, Shiki, for fixing me. Excuse me while I go back to my apartment. And then they like tear all the things that he's done out and put new stuff in because he's so bad at it.
Yeah, he is not the brightest bulb in the shed, but he is very much, I want to make friends. That is his whole way of life at the beginning of this story is, I want to make friends. The more friends, the better. So he is so excited that Rebecca's there. And
yeah, if you thought One Piece brought up friends a lot, Eden Zero's making it actually work for that because all he talks about is, I'm going to make friends. Can you be friends? I want to be friends. Are we friends? Will we be friends? Friends.
Friends. That's that's his mantra. Anyone can be my friend, no matter what.
Yes. But so then, that's the intro, and then from there we go to
space. We go to space. So the way the universe works is there are multiple cosmos, and they are in the Sakura cosmos. So think of it as regions of space. So they are in the region of the Sakura cosmos. And then as the story progresses, multiple books into the future, they go to different cosmos to do different things.
Yeah.
Them going from one to another is a big deal.
Going between cosmoses is very hard.
Yeah.
Going between planets, you need a ship, and depending on the cosmos you're in, there may be other restrictions, but it's fundamentally easier.
Yeah. So they have Rebecca's ship, but it's very small in the grand scheme of things because it was for Happy and Rebecca. Happy is the size of a cat. Rebecca is just a regular sized person. But now you also have Shiki, and it's not the biggest ship to get around in. So like, okay, we're going to take you to the main planet in the Sakura cosmos. But as they're traveling there, one of the things that comes up a lot later is that there are beings that live in space. So one of the things is they see a dragon. Think of a giant dragon, but made out of robotic pieces.
Yep.
There's just a giant dragon just going through space. And they're just a tiny little ship next to it. It's like, okay, this is a different kind of story.
The space fantasy title is very apt.
Yeah. There's all kinds of things like that. So it's a really cool opening of a story. Because you have all the drama of Shiki making a new friend. Sorta. He wants friends. The betrayal of the robots. And they actually not betrayal, but kind of to get Shiki to leave his home, to go live with more people, to make more friends. and the emotions of that. And while they're doing that, there's cool fight scenes. You get to understand what the ether gear is and the power that he has of gravity and how that's actually a big deal. And then they fly off and go to... I forget what the actual name of it is.
Blue Garden or Norma?
Blue Garden. Blue Garden's the one. So they go to Blue Garden. So Blue Garden, think of it as the first major city of an adventure. So they go there. There's an adventurers guild. Rebecca is part of that, but she's trying to be a VTuber as her career. So they go there. That's where you find out that Happy is a robot and also can turn into guns.
Yep.
And that Happy was a cat originally, got killed, and someone turned him into a robot gun thing. And Rebecca is actually really good at fighting. Because on Grand Bell, which was the planet where Shiki came from, she did more of the running away, kind of like, I gotta get out of here, this planet's crazy. And Shiki did a lot of the fighting. But when they get to Blue Garden, Shiki's like, I want to be friends with everybody. And it's like, you don't want to talk to those people. They are not nice people. It's like, I want to be your friend. Can I be your friend? How about you be my friend?
So many friends.
Yeah. He kind of freaks out because he's only ever seen one person, and that's been in the last half an hour. So there's a lot of that, and then kind of like explain the adventures of going out into space, and they get into the Adventurers Guild, and up above there's this giant hologram of this woman just sitting in this thing. She's like, who's that? And it turns out, in this universe, there's a being called Mother. I think that's the official name.
Yes.
This being has the power to grant wishes if you can find her. No one has ever been able to find her that you know of.
Yes.
And that is important because Shiki's like, that's what I want to do. I want to go meet Mother.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone just laughs at him because like, this crazy newbie. And he's like, okay, let's do it. Rebecca's like, I can film all these crazy things. Let's go do that.
Yeah.
But my ship can't do that.
And I think that's an important thing to follow up on the Mother part is it's not that no one has ever done it, but nobody knows anyone who's done it.
Yeah.
And lots of people know people who've tried.
Right.
And you quickly find out a lot of the people who seem like the most amazing people ever have tried and failed.
Yeah.
But also there are people who have, but it's this crazy thing to actually be able to find out where she is.
Yep. There's supposed to be clues and all kinds of things. Think of it like the One Piece in One Piece. It's a thing that everyone wants, but no one ever gets. But everyone's shooting for it. And a lot of people give up on it and just become adventurers and just travel around the Sakura Cosmos doing stuff and doing that kind of thing. But Chiki's like, I want to do that. Let's go. Rebecca's like, cool, let's do it. My ship can't do any of it. So we have to go talk to the professor because he can probably get us a cool ship. And we're like, great, let's go do that. Because he also is the one who created Happy, turned him into a robot. Because Happy was killed. That's how she met the professor.
Yep.
And the Professor Weiss can get her a ship and can be part of the crew. Because two people can't find Mother. We need a crew. We need to make more friends. Because we always need more friends. So let's go make more friends. And off we go to make more friends. More friends are located at Norma. We go to Norma. Norma is a rock. And we're not sure why. They land. It's like, Norma didn't look like this. What happened? There's all these weird stones falling from the sky. It looks like a desolate nothingness. This doesn't look right. So, what happened? And in this story of Eden Zero, there's a lot of other characters that you see along the way that are kind of hinting at things.
There's a lot of things also that feel like foreshadowing something that you almost immediately realize isn't about what we're doing now, but what we're going to be doing later.
Yes.
There's a lot of foreshadowing of like, oh, this is what's going to happen in the next chapter, but there's a narrator who's talking about things. There's foreshadowing of stuff, and it's like 20,000 years in the future or something else like that. And it's just, those things are also all interspersed throughout this too. That's not what we're going to talk about.
This story has so much foreshadowing just tucked in on all kinds of places. But for the Norma, they arrive at Norma. Okay, what do we do now? We're here. This isn't right. I was here not that long ago and it didn't look like this. So then they find a way to go underground. And in it, they arrive in this place. It's like, okay, we're here. Great. This kind of looks right, but like, why can't I connect to anything? Everything looks old for some reason.
Yeah.
And they go to where the professor should be, and it's like, who are you? It's like, I'm Weiss. No, you're not. You're just
a kid.
You're not old like the professor. It's like,
yeah,
I'm the only one here. This is my place. Get up. So then Shiki wants to be his friend, obviously.
Yep.
But some stuff happens, and it turns out that this Weiss is trying to make money by doing things not quite on the level. Yep. And some more shenanigans happen, and they rescue a new robot called Pino.
Yeah. So Weiss is working for not so savory people and has recently decided to steal from the people he works for.
Yeah.
And inside of a briefcase that he's stolen, we find Pino, full name E.M. Pino.
Yes. Because of these unsavory people, they've been attacking the town and kind of doing and exploiting everyone around. Because he found Pino. Pino is actually a high-tech EMP bomb, for the short answer. Pino is able to turn off anything electronic, I believe even ether gears.
Yes, ether gears as well.
So because of this unsavory gang that Weiss was working for / stealing from, they start going crazy through town trying to find him, and turns out they've been torturing Pino to get her to do what they want. Because Pino's like the size of Happy, but is much more robot-like. Shiki wants to help robots because he thinks robots are just like people, so he's like, why would you treat a robot like this? And then there's a big fight, and one of the things that Weiss can do is that he can not quite rewrite machines, but he can build things incredibly fast because he just understands, because technology is more of a concept in this world. It's like, I can redo all of this technology to do whatever I want it to do. That's his power. And as this goes on, Rebecca, Happy, Shiki, and Weiss are trying to both save Pino, stop this gang, and then they do. They defeat the evil bad guy because Pino can do her EMP bomb and save everyone. And then it's like, okay, great. We're survived. We won. Well, it turns out that they need to get out of here. Because while they did all these great things, they're now wanted by the police. Because, yeah, you're going around defeating the bad guy, but you're also destroying half the city.
Yeah.
So it's like, we gotta get out of here now. So they run away. They defeated the bad guy. Out we go. Run away. Escape the planet because the planet's going nuts for some reason. And they get out, and they get a phone call from Professor Weiss.
Yep.
Of nowadays.
Yep.
What is going on? Turns out that there's a phenomenon in this world. I guess less of a phenomenon, or more like a unstoppable being, a giant monster called a chronophage. The chronophage survives by eating time. And by eating time, what it did is it ate 50 years of Norma's time. So if you go back to Norma now, after the chronophage came through, that's why Weiss was there from 50 years ago. So when a chronophage comes through, that planet is considered quarantined. You're not supposed to go there because it can mess with the universe by going to something that's 50 years ago, but not 50 years ago. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's just dangerous to do that. But the chronophage is this being that travels through space, eating time from planets or anything. And because of that, Weiss from 50 years ago now exists at the same time as Weiss of now. So you have the same person from two different times existing at the same time. And it gets very head trippy if you think about it too much. It's like, how is this possible? And short answer is, they just both exist now. They've now split off from each other.
Yeah, so the chronophage is actually kind of explained pretty well, and it does make sense where when it eats the time, it only eats the time of that planet and reverts it back that far in the past. That past then becomes its now. And so during those 50 years, Weiss had left the planet and gone off and done other things. And then the chronophage came and ate it. The Weiss who's already left wasn't there, so nothing happened to him. but the planet reverted back 50 years, and so Weiss was again back on that planet. The dangerous thing that comes up a couple other times, because surprise, this isn't the only time there'll be weird time shenanigans.
Mm-hmm.
If you're on that planet and the chronophage eats you and goes back to a time before you got there, you cease to exist. So if someone had come 48 years ago and landed on the planet and lived there for all the time, and the chronophage came and ate them, they're just gone. Because they're not outside in the galaxy where time hasn't changed, and the planet has gone back to before they got there, so they stop existing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird. It sort of has its explanation, but because Weiss had left and gone off, and then the chronophage came and pushed time back, basically the same Weiss re-existed as a kid, but then they went there and met him in that time, and then they left again. So now there's 2 Weiss out in the universe.
Yep. But after all of that, they have a Weiss, but no good ship. Their ship is still the same. So it's like, okay, now what do we do? But as soon as you learn about, okay, we have multiple Weisses and things like that, they are not really, I guess you would call it, frozen in space by a ship that shows up next to them, and it is a pirate ship, space pirate ship. And this is pretty much where the Norma arc ends, and then it starts on another arc. But this is where we get to meet the captain of one of the most wanted people in the universe. Her name is
Elsie Crimson.
Yes. If you read Fairy Tale, she looks exactly like Ezra Scarlet, except she has an eye patch.
She's Ezra Scarlet becomes Elsie Crimson. God damn it.
Yep. There's a lot of that going on in the beginning of the...
I was also going to say, this feels 100% just like, it's One Piece. In space.
No, this is Fairy Tale in space.
I mean, yes, true, but it's also like, yeah, we're going to go and make friends.
Yep.
And then we're going to go and find the mystical treasure that is the greatest thing that's ever existed. And there's space pirates. And there's planets. I mean islands. I mean planets. Where all sorts of things exist. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Ezra.
Yes.
Ezra Scarlet
Ezra Scarlet. Yeah.
Okay, I want to say this now. I don't want to read Fairy Tale anymore because I'm going to get so annoyed of like, oh my god, it's literally the same person.
So they don't act the same.
I know.
But,
I get it.
And they don't have the same powers.
Yeah.
But the character design is very, very similar.
Yes. Yes. I've seen pictures from Fairy Tale and and I've obviously read Eden Zero, and it's like, yeah, they look exactly the same.
Yeah.
Happy literally more than anything else look exactly like another character from it.
So for Happy, that character I believe has been in all of Hiro's works, as well as one other character, like Natsu and Shiki and things like that. The main character, the main protagonists have looked similar. The idea of Happy the cat has been in all of the stories, I think. I don't know as much about his other work besides... I know in Rave Master, they had a Happy cat. But there's one other minor character who shows up. It's the little kind of weird character with a spiral nose.
From the front of Rave Master.
Yeah.
Yeah, with a like carrot drill nose. Yeah, he shows up in Eden Zero as like a background character on the... Which planet was it? Blue Garden.
Blue Garden.
He's in the background there. Yeah.
And that same character also shows up in Fairy Tale.
Yes, I'm sure.
Yeah. That's like one of the mascots almost of his series is Happy, and this little drill, not really sure what it is exactly, but things like that. If you liked Fairy Tale, this is pretty much Fairy Tale in space.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. The art is, because I have like the beginning of Fairy Tale and also the first volume of Eden Zero, and the art has gone up so much. The art style, the how technical it is, and all the dynamic poses and the fight scenes that just taken up a whole nother level in Eden Zero. So if you like the kind of story in Fairy Tale, Eden Zero, the art, the story is just a notch above that.
Yeah, no, I haven't read Fairy Tale, but I will say the art in this is very good. It's very shonen-y. It's very much his style. If you look at any of his series, you can see the style that he has. and it's done that way, but there's a lot of interesting details. The designs are nice, the characters and the action and everything is drawn out and shown very well, but it's not really unique. It's just like, it's his style.
Yeah.
And that's sort of how all you can really say about it. But it is technically very well done.
Yep.
And it works really well. And going from space to planets to ships to people fighting, there's a lot of different things to see in it, and they're all done really, really well.
This arc, I think, is a good starting point for the story, because it doesn't throw in, here's a ton of characters at once. It's very focused. It's like, here's a couple characters. We're going to introduce you to the world. We're going to introduce you to these characters and slowly build on it from there. We're going to explain how the universe works. We're going to explain these powers. We're going to slowly build up and just expand the story more naturally. It's like, okay, Cheeky, now you got Rebecca happy, then you get Weiss and Pino, and then we're just going to slowly build on top of that to just make it a grander and grander adventure. And
yes,
I think this is a good starting point for the story.
Oh, absolutely. I think because some, like we talked about Jujutsu Kaisen and the weirdness with how it opened and some of the characters not getting the time they deserved. This is a story that does its pacing very well. Shiki, Rebecca Happy show up in chapter 1, and you sort of see that and you get to build up in them, and it's mostly about Shiki. And then chapter 2, you can learn a lot more about Rebecca and Happy. And then the next couple of chapters, as they're on their way to Norma, you get a lot more time with them, and you see them starting to develop, and you get a sense of who they are, how they fight, how they think about things. And then Wise comes in, and Pino comes in, and you have these several chapters of them becoming more important, like their characters developing, actually seeing who they are, seeing what they can do, having them do things and accomplish things and be part of this crew that's starting to fill out. No one shows up and then immediately gets sidelined. It's very standard shonen, but it's executed very well. Like, the pacing is almost perfect. Every character has their moment. They get to show up. You get to see who they are. They get to do the thing that makes them cool. And then they just sort of meld into the team and move forward. It's a very, very good start for a story. And that first chapter is so good. It's so sad.
Yeah. That's one thing about this series and story as a whole, is that there are a lot of these happy-go-lucky, like, hey, I want to be everyone's friend and things like that. But there are also very much serious undertones, serious stories that happen. Kind of like, okay, yeah, this is a shonen-y kind of story. But then it's like, okay, we're going to talk about some not nice stuff as well. We're going to go into some darker bits of society. We're going to go into some deeper emotions. Because that shows you who these characters really are.
Yeah.
Not so much in the first arc, but it comes down the line.
I feel like this is almost the most shonen-y shonen I could think of if One Piece didn't exist. This has that same sort of feeling where there are going to be serious things and there's going to be serious themes and bad things are going to happen, but it's never going to get to be like really dark until you've really had a chance to get invested in it, or until it's part of a big arc where something really dark or complicated is going to happen. But most of the time it sort of brings you through these themes, but still is able to keep that somewhat lighthearted tone and not dive into something where it doesn't end up involved in something that's so dark they're like, whoa, wait, what? Everything is very naturally connected in this. And we skipped over a lot of, wow, that's weird. Why is this scene here? Oh, well, I guess we're just going to move on and ignore this thing that happened. Because there's a lot of, like we said, there's a lot of foreshadowing things. There's a lot of things that are put in there. It's clearly been put here for a reason, but it's not explained at all. And in a lot of stories, it's just like, this is weird and I don't like it. And here it's like, this is weird. I'm sure I'm going to get explained what this is later, but not right now. All right, I'm just going to kind of set it to the side and not think about it.
But know that it is explained later, just not for a while.
As far as I know, every single one of them has been explained later. that shows up in these two books.
Yeah.
Except for like the actual whole plot point of the whole story.
Yeah.
Oh, this scene that was here. The last scene of the first book is very jarring.
Yep.
And it's just like, yep, anyway, we're going to jump 20,000 years into the future. Okay.
And back to normal.
And then immediately the start of the next chapter jumps right back in as if nothing had happened.
Yeah.
That's explained in like book 23?
Yeah, it's not explained for a while. But it is explained.
It's not explained for a while, but it's... And that's the thing. I think that's probably my biggest thing I would warn someone about who's picking this up is you're going to be given information that will not make sense or will not be important for a very long time, and you have to just be okay with that. You can't want answers right away.
And the author, I want to make sure I get this point across, the author has made note that when he was writing Fairy Tale, it was very much, I'm just going to write a story and see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be a good thing. It could be a very natural way to see how the story goes. But the problem is that you can also run into the trap of you don't have a plan for where you're going. So it can also make a very meandering plot. And I think that can happen quite easily if you write your story like that. But the author made a specific note that I am not writing Eden Zero like that. His original story for, I believe, Rave Master was I have rigidly outlined every single thing I want to do in this story. He went the complete opposite with Fairy Tale, saying, I have characters, we're going to see where they go. And Eden Zero is very much a mix of both, where he's like, I have a story, I have these plot things I want to tell, I have an outline, but I'm also going to naturally get there. But I know where I'm going. And you can tell, like, as you say, you have these scenes of foreshadowing, which you can't do unless you know where the story is going.
Yeah.
And that's a big plus for this story, because I know what's going to happen. The author can say, this is where we're going, and I'm going to get us there, but we're going to do this cool stuff on the way because these characters are neat. And that comes across really well in the first arc.
We can't really talk about it because not much has happened yet in this. The events that make this really become apparent haven't even really happened yet. As a narrative that is constructed, there are so many connecting points between different things. The chronophage, which sort of seems like this, yeah, it's just this thing that happens. Like, no, that's an important thing that comes up in other places and will cause other problems and change the way things are later in this story.
Mm-hmm.
How time and space and these places and who everybody is all going to be connected again later, but this is the beginning, and the beginning is just a really good, well put together adventure, but it's in space.
Yes. So this first came out in 2018 in English, and as soon as I saw that it was in space, I'm like, yes, it's in space. There are so few stories in space. It's like, this is going to be awesome. And I have picked up every one whenever it's come out since then, and I have not been disappointed. It's a great story. The beginning really sells it, and there's just so much more that happens that I want to talk about.
Yep.
But if you haven't read the beginning, you really need to, and it's so good.
And this is definitely one, it's like, don't look for spoilers, because it will be so much better if you just read through it. The story is well played. I think if you've accidentally stumbled on them, read it anyway, because I still think it will be good, but it's worth it. And it's over.
Yep.
The last 3 books are coming out later this year. The final volume will be available September 30th, 2025 in English. Funnily enough, I'm not reading the summary, but I'm looking at Wikipedia. The last book is called Friends.
Of course it is.
Yeah. Which, again, that's the other thing, like, it's very shonen. It's very, very shonen. If you are not interested in very classic standard shonen, this isn't for you. But if you like that, if you like really classic shonen series, this is just that in space.
Yeah.
In space.
Yeah. So check it out. Eden Zero. I can't recommend it enough. It's awesome.
I can recommend it enough, but it's still probably one of the best series I've read recently. It's an excellent, excellent series. But with that, thank you very much, everyone, again for listening to another episode of the Mudai Manga Book Club podcast. If you'd like to follow us outside of the regular show, you can find us on Blue Sky at Mudai Manga Book Club, on YouTube at Mudai Manga Book Club, on Podbean at Mudai Manga Book Club, or email us at mudaimangabookclub@gmail.com. Someday I'll find a way to say this all in a row and make it sound more natural. If you're listening to the audio podcast and you want to leave a review or send us an email, we'd love to hear feedback from you guys, questions, comments, rants about how it's still not on Apple iTunes because they won't let me make a freaking account, or other more normal topics, I suppose. We'd love to hear from you. If you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, leave us a comment again about any of those sorts of things. We'd love to hear from you. It really helps us know that people are interested in what we're saying and what we're talking about, and that they're enjoying the show. But with that, it is time for your final recommendation. After me, because I'm going to go first this time.
Oh, fine.
So, I wanted to recommend something pretty simple this week. It's another game, but it's a card game called, in English, Take 5. In pretty much everywhere else in the world, you'll probably hear it as Six Nimmt. Nimmt. It's a German name. It's originally a German card game. What it immediately makes me think of is we grew up playing Uno. Mm-hmm. It's that kind of a family card game that's really simple but works really well, but it's better as a strategic card game. Everybody gets a set of cards. Everyone gets 10 cards with a bunch of numbers on it. There's a couple numbers on the table, and everybody puts a card face down at the same time and then flips it up, and there's a couple of really simple rules, and you line up your cards in piles on the table. And whenever you get to more than 5 cards, whoever played the card that brought it over to the 6th card, where 6 Nimmt comes from, takes the first 5 cards, where the Take 5 comes from. And taking cards is bad because you get points for cards, and in this game, points are bad. It's really simple. I play it with my kids. I just taught them a couple weeks ago, and all you have to know how to do is count. And have one person who can walk through the very easy process of deciding where cards go. But since everyone plays at the same time and everybody flips at the same time, you have to play your cards so that you don't end up taking cards, but you don't know what everyone else is playing. And if they just happen to be playing something at the right time, they might cut you off and give you points. They might take points you thought you had to take, but they took them first, which cleared out the row, which means you're in there and you're fine. There's definitely strategy involved, but there's also a lot of luck, and it's very short. You can finish a round in about 10 minutes, probably less if you're all really quick at it. But it's just a nice, quick, easy card game to play, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
How about you? What is your recommendation for the week?
All right, I'll keep this short. My recommendation is something that I've been watching recently is Steven Universe. If anyone doesn't know what it is, Steven Universe is a Western TV show. I think it was Cartoon Network.
I believe so.
Yeah, it's 5 seasons, a movie, and then one more season, but the episodes are like 15 minutes long. It's about a boy and a group of rebels on Earth, and it's Steven Universe and the Crystal Gems. It's about an alien race who are made up of gemstones, and they try to save the world from all kinds of other aliens. And it starts off very light and fluffy, and then as it goes on, you kind of learn there's more going on than meets the eye, and eventually you get into some PTSD and kind of understanding what it means to grow up, things like that, and what it means to sacrifice yourself or not sacrifice yourself, and how much are you willing to give up for your goals or to save people. It's a really cool show. It came out a number of years ago now. Don't quite know the easiest way to see it because I have it on DVD, but it's a cool show if you can find it. There's the original 5 seasons. They have like 20 episodes each, but they're 15 minutes long, except for a few of them that are a little longer. And then there's a movie that comes out that kind of bridges the gap between the 5th season and like a season that comes after like a few years later. it kind of wraps up the story. And it's like it's neat. You should check it out. It's just a fun little goofy story, but it actually covers some important topics.
Nice. Yeah, I've heard a lot about it. I just haven't gotten to see it.
It's drawn in a very cartoony style.
Yeah.
I think mid 2010s ish time frame.
2013 to 2019.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
And that is going to be it for this week. Next week, we are going to be doing Goodbye Eri by Tatsuki Fujimoto. It's one of his one-off stories. It's a single book. We're going to cover the whole thing in a single episode because it's a single book.
And anyone who doesn't recognize the name, it's the creator of Chainsaw Man.
Yes. So that's what we'll be checking out next week. But until then, everybody, have a great night.
Bye.
Peace.
No, it's really good. I highly recommend checking it out.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
On to the next.
Cool. Segway.
Alright, I'll keep this short. My recommendation is something that I've been watching recently is Steven Universe.
And that's all the time we have.
There we go.
Oh.
And up we go. Ba-da-ba-da.
Ba-ba-ba-da-da.
Ba-da-ba-da.
Ba-ba-da-bo.
Ba-da-ba-da.
Ba-ba-ba-da-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba.
Ba-da-ba-da. I don't remember how the rest of the song goes.